When I was younger, we used to visit my grandparents during the holidays, even though we didn't live in the same town. Right next to my grandparents lived my aunt, but sandwiched between their houses was a peculiar lady. She was an imposing figure, standing well over 6 feet tall. Draped in a dress, work boots, and adorned with logging chains around her neck, she exuded an eerie aura. This enigmatic neighbor rarely ventured outside her home. Her only appearances were in the backyard, tending to her garden, or, even more strangely, when she meticulously washed the exterior of her house. It wasn't a typical house cleaning. She would scrub the very walls of the building itself. This bizarre ritual was accompanied by her unsettling behavior. She would berate us children, hurling insults and ominous warnings that the devil was soon to come for us. The adults in the neighborhood warned us to steer clear of her, and we obeyed without question. Whenever we had to pass by her house, we would sprint the distance between my aunts and my grandparents. Her piercing gaze followed our every move from behind the windows, an experience that left us with an eerie sense of dread. One Halloween, our curiosity and youthful bravado got the best of us. One of our cousins dared us to trick or treat at her house. Fear gnawed at our insides, but none of us wanted to be labeled a chicken. So we proceeded as a group. Someone rang her doorbell, and suddenly the house echoed with loud, ominous banging sounds, like doors slamming shut. Our hearts raced as she opened the door, holding a severed head in her hands. A collective scream erupted, and we fled in terror. The adults later scolded us, assuring us that it was just a Halloween prop and that we shouldn't have bothered her. Deep down, we knew we had crossed a line. About a month later, my parents received a chilling phone call. It turned out that this mysterious woman had attempted to murder my aunt as she was carrying groceries with her young cousin in her arms. The lady had wielded a rope saw and stealthily approached my aunt from behind, looping it over her head and around her neck before starting to saw. Panic ensued as my aunt fought back, kicking at the door. Fortunately, my uncle arrived and subdued the lady with a fire poker. The ensuing police investigation revealed a nightmarish reality hidden beneath the surface. The woman had been digging tunnels beneath her home, which extended underneath my aunt's, my grandparents', and another neighbor's houses. She had surreptitiously removed dirt from these tunnels and concealed it in the raised garden beds. Deep underground, investigators discovered a gruesome shrine adorned with severed heads, exposing a realm of darkness that defied comprehension. My aunt survived the ordeal, albeit with a haunting scar across her neck. The encounter with our sinister neighbor on that fateful Halloween night had unveiled a horrifying truth lurking beneath her peculiar exterior, forever etching that chilling chapter in our memories. When I was a young child, my parents would occasionally let me stay up late on the weekends to watch TV until I drifted off to sleep. Those late-night moments were precious to me, and I would often stay up far longer than anyone else in the house. One fateful night, as I was on the verge of falling asleep on the couch, a peculiar sound jolted me awake. It was the unmistakable creaking of our old-fashioned porch swing swaying back and forth. I felt a shiver crawl down my spine. Cautiously, I crept toward the bay windows in my living room and peered out toward the porch. There, sitting on our front porch swing, was an older woman, probably in her 50s, clad in nothing but a nightgown. She was drenched in blood and clutched a massive kitchen knife. My heart raced, and fear gripped me as I observed this surreal scene. I bolted away from the window, ran into my parents' room, and tried to convey what I had just witnessed. My parents, while concerned, initially dismissed my account, attributing it to a bad dream. They urged me to return to bed, but my fear was insurmountable. I continued to cry and scream until my dad, growing frustrated, seized my arm and marched me toward the front door to prove that my fears were unfounded. I resisted vehemently, kicking and screaming in an attempt to halt his progress, but he was determined to show me that there was nothing to be afraid of. Reluctantly, I accompanied him, my heart pounding in my chest. As we reached the front door, he unlocked it, flung it open, and began to reassure me that there was nothing. His words were abruptly cut short, replaced by an expression of sheer terror that twisted his face. I turned to see what had shaken him so profoundly. And there, sitting on the porch swing, bathed in the dim light, was the blood-soaked woman, still clutching the colossal kitchen knife. My dad hastily slammed the door shut and rushed to retrieve his gun. Trembling, he returned to the door, a 12-gauge shotgun in hand, and cautiously cracked it open. With an air of trepidation, he inquired about her intentions. Her response was chilling. "Somebody killed my husband, but it wasn't me." My dad, keeping his composure, informed her that the police were on their way. Panicked, she clutched the knife tightly and retreated. The police eventually apprehended her 15 minutes later as she attempted to break into one of our neighbors' homes. That night forever altered my sense of security, and I never dared to sleep in the living room again. After she left, my dad called my eccentric uncle, who lived next door, to warn him of the situation. My uncle, a no-nonsense kind of guy, was waiting on his front porch with a shotgun when she passed by. He pointed the weapon at her and simply uttered, "Keep moving." When I was around 13 years old, my parents decided to invite our previous neighbors over for a visit. These neighbors were from the block of flats we had lived in until I was about 5 years old. As the evening progressed, I was sent to bed, but I could still hear the faint murmur of voices as my parents and the neighbors chatted about various topics. Then something strange happened. The woman from next door asked my mom, "Hey, do you remember when Diggsy used to complain about there being someone in his room? Well, there's a family that just moved in on the floor above, and their 3-year-old son is now complaining about the exact same things Diggsy did." This sent shivers down my spine. I had no recollection of any such incidents, so the next day, I asked my mom about it. Her initial reaction was surprise, followed by a sigh, as if she'd been expecting this conversation. She proceeded to recount the strange events from our earlier years in that flat. She described the eerie footsteps that used to echo up and down the hallway, mysterious disappearances of objects, and other inexplicable occurrences. But the most unsettling tale was the one involving a record player. My mom explained how she was once listening to a vinyl record, and it began to slow down, as if someone were gently pressing a finger on the turntable, bringing it to a gradual halt. Frustration overcame her, and she snapped, shouting, "While you leave the US alone." Miraculously, the record promptly returned to its normal speed, as if in response to her plea. From that moment onward, our home remained free of any eerie incidents. To this day, I've never encountered anything quite like those unexplained occurrences from my childhood.